Hello, my name is Kaysan and I will be one of your co-hosts for this episode of Voice It.
Hi, my name is Hasanath and I'm your other co-host on this episode of Voice It.
Hi, my name is Kairul. I am today's guest on this episode of Voice It.
Welcome to today's episode of Voice It. In this episode, we will be talking about the impact of knife crimes and antisocial behaviour from the perspective of young people. So to start with, I will hand it over to you, Kairul. If you could give us a bit of your background, a bit of your story.
So, my name is Kairul Islam. I grew up in Birmingham for about 21 years, so I'm 21 now. 11 years I've lived in Aston, which is a known area for high crime and violence. And I moved to Newtown, which is also next to Aston, so it also has a high impact of knife crime and gang violence as well. I've been living there for about 10 years and going on more. And just like growing up there, I've seen some like horrible incidents across my road, on my road, and in the area in particular. It's just sometimes it could be a bit disturbing, and I think it's topics that we need to raise awareness of for young people especially, as a lot of them don't understand the impact it has on the wider community rather than just themselves.
Do you feel like the incidents you have were getting more and more frequent as the year go by up to the present?
Certainly, I believe it has increased a lot compared to how it was before, and it's gone a little bit more dangerous, and it's more of it's happening, and it's something that if it's not talked about, it will be more. As it's rising, it'll be more frequent and more severe. But it has increased a lot, and there has been many impacts that leads towards it. Why it's happening, and if we talk about certain topics, like for example, as a rise of social media and media in general, mobile phones and everything increases as technology advances, these social media apps like Instagram and Facebook, they promote gang violence, not directly but through music and through Instagram posts, and they spread a lot of hatred, which leads to a lot of antisocial behaviour, and I think that's a topic that needs to be talked about a lot.
Of course, is there any recent experiences which you think have showed the rise or the increase in this violence?
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing the research in university for my dissertation, which involved knife crime and gun violence. One of the key factors we found out with knife crime is that social media and music, in particular drill music, had one of the most key influences on knife crime and for young people. This was because it has risen. I think it was number one in the UK chart, so it's been listened to a lot, and I think a lot of the people listen to these music to be cool and to fit into the environment of the community and to just socially be accepted. But what people don't understand is that it's spreading hatred across. I mean, a lot of these music talks about stabbing one another and going there fighting for your postcode, fighting for your area. But a lot of people don't realize that it's not worth you fighting for your area. And a lot of people that grew up where we grew up, they live in like council houses and company houses, so it's not even really their house, and they got this illusion that they want to fight for something that they don't even own. So it's not really worth risking your life for these things. And with young people in particular, they don't realize that it's not just if I go and stab you, it's just me stabbing you. It's got not just got an impact on you, it's got an impact on your parents, your work colleagues, the whole community, and it's endless on who it affects.
When you say drill music reaching the top of the charts, that's millions and millions and millions of children, and I don't know who listens. Teenagers, probably adults. I doubt adults probably listen to that, because I haven't personally listened to it. I'm not an adult, but I'm 21, but I've personally not listened to it. But are you saying it's a common thing that the youth are listening to?
Yes, well, there's a saying where, you know, the youth are the futures of tomorrow, and if these guys are so intrigued in these things, then you know in the future these things are going to be so common, and everybody's going to want to be a part of drill music and listen to drill music. It's so easily accessible these days, the music, and it's so easy to listen to because it's being played on YouTube for free, on TikTok.
There's no, I mean, I know that Spotify and all these music, they only just have the explicit, but there's no kind of restrictions on listening to it, right? So anyone can just listen to
anybody, to be honest, it's Twitter or baby if he knows how to use YouTube.
So what do you think could be used to limit the impact music has on these sort of behaviours and knife crimes? What could be done to limit it?
I mean, I think one of the most important things is, for example, the government should do a little bit more in terms of having more access to their social media, and know that if you're spreading these things, they have to sort of come across. But I think also it's down to the individuals and the people around you. So it's better for people to, because a lot of people, they don't listen to these music and they feel neglected by their friendship groups, and a lot of people are mature and they don't say anything. But I think these people are the most important people that need to step up and just say how it is, because if they're not accepted for that, but they've mentioned it, then somewhere along the line it could stop them from listening to these music, and it's nothing wrong with listening to it, and it may sound cool, but it's about implementing these things that they're saying in the real world.
I feel like one of the main issues is that young people are very easily influenced, and growing up they'll pick up everything, and if these are young people listening to this kind of music, it's going to become, you could say, normalized. Talking about drugs or knife crime, you mentioned in this drill music, I personally haven't listened much to it, but you mentioned they just freely talk about committing violent acts on one another, and if young people growing up easily influenced, they're gonna start to feel that knife crime and so on is normal, and acting in a violent way is normal. I mean, us as adults, we already have our own views on it, that and we know that it's wrong, but young people, the fact that it's so easily accessible to them, what do you think we could prevent this? Should parents get involved?
Should it be age restricted? Should there be some age restrictions?
But the problem is, these days, you're saying adults have accepted it, but it's not really the case, because a lot of these artists that want to sell their music are quite old, so they have a key role in the influences. So the age limit is always going to be like anonymous. It could be any age.
Yeah, it's true.
And the offenders, the young age, it's ridiculously young. I mean, these days you can't trust the 8-year-old walking on the street, because they could be one carrying a weapon. And it's scary, because those are the people that would have no fear in using it against you, and you could just be a normal person. I mean, there's stories of there's quite famous stories of someone getting stabbed for their jacket, and it just shows that all for a jacket people are being stabbed, and it's really terrifying, because the age, you would think anybody under the age of 15 is innocent, but it's not the case. With knife crime in particularly, a lot of the offenders are young, and really, really young. So you can't really say that age is a big factor here, because from 40-year-old men to 15-year-old, 12-year-old, 8-year-old kids, they're committing crimes. So it just depends. I mean, people, when we say people, like, there's no age that needs to step up and tell them how it is. It should be anybody, anybody who understands it. And I think one of the main things that needs to happen is schools need to start educating these young people about knife crime and the impact it has. I mean, you talk about schools, why don't they get in people that have already been there's a lot of people in Birmingham in particularly who have been involved in knife crime and gang violence, who have left that life behind and have started a fresh life, and they've seen all the negativities. Why not get those kind of people into schools to talk about their their experiences, because those are the real role models. I mean, a lot of people look up to people like Cristiano Ronaldo and Kim Kardashian and everyone, but it's all fake on there. Like they're not what we're living in right now. What we're living in right now, and what our heroes and role models are, is our local people that have put those aside and who have dealt with these and been through these problems. Those are the real reality that we can relate to. And you know, we all look up to all these big individuals in the world, which is fair play. I mean, hopefully one day you can reach as high as these guys, but the local people who have been through these problems, I mean, there's been so many mothers out there that have lost their children due to these issues, and they need to be talked to, and like they need to share their experiences, because if people don't realize, people don't see these and hear these stories firsthand, then they'll never understand the influence it has and the impact it has on others.
Even in our daily lives, I don't think many mothers would, you know, feel safe that their child is out on the streets, or even just going to the park. They probably feel like they have to be supervised. I mean, I've personally, if I had a little brother or so.
Absolutely, because I've got first-hand experience of that. When I moved to Newtown, it was known for high crime rates, and I live next to a park where we weren't allowed to. It's literally a 30-second walk to the park, but we were never allowed to go to the park and never allowed to play in it. We had to play in our back garden growing up.
We don't associate parks these days as somewhere to have fun or somewhere to get a breath of fresh air. It feels like the park or some of these places are like a gang spot or like a dangerous
definitely
spot.
And it's a shame, because I mean, there's some really good activities to do in the park. Like you can go for a picnic, kick the ball around with the lads, or you can even just play in the swings and slides, but those privileges are taken away from us because of these young people who believe that, you know, they can do what they like, but they don't realize that you're taking away. For example, a father would like to take a child to the park, and that could be a father and child bonding time, but you've taken that away from them, and you've impacted them because of your foolishness on the streets.
I even have some family members who suffer from mental health, and one of their main kind of daily objectives is to actually go on a walk and take a breath of fresh air, and basically use the park as their kind of getaway for the day, to get out of the house and to feel kind of at one with the world, or to experience just being with the trees and this and that. It's basically experience nature, and the fact that part of their day, which is so important for them, for their mental health, is taken away just because of all these influences, music, gang, drugs, all that stuff. Essentially, it's not only ruining people's lives within the whole gang culture, it's ruining people in the area. Even the elderly, they might like to go on walks, maybe take their dogs on walks, but I feel like they're restricted to that. Even at any time past like when it's sunset, for example, no one feels safe to ever go out at that time.
I mean, absolutely right there. I mean, in our area, we're so used to listening to sirens and police cars going past. It's almost become like a normal thing. When you don't see a police car, you're like, oh mate, there's something wrong. 95% of the time, there's 3-4 police cars going at once, and you know something major is happening in the area. I mean, just a few years ago on my road itself, I think we've had a stabbing and a shooting just literally a road away from me, and it just goes to show that how dangerous life could be and in your area. And you hear a lot of the people growing up in Birmingham say, can't wait to get out of this, can't wait to go out and, you know, move away.
Sounds like a prison.
I mean, that shouldn't be the case. I mean, this is your home, this is where you grew up. You're the one who should be stepping up to change these things.
A home should be safe.
On that note, what do you think is the difference between an area that's got a high crime rate and an area that hasn't? Why is it that one has and one hasn't? What did you see was the main difference?
I mean, every area's got some sort of crime happening, whether it's as bad as shooting and stabbings, or if it's just a burglary. I mean, everyone's got their point of view, but I think one of the main things is the overpopulated areas. So we're from Birmingham. Birmingham's highly overpopulated, likewise London and other cities. But the ones that are less populated are the ones with less crime, which is normal, and I think it's how they live their life. I mean, a lot of these high end places where they go to private schools and live in an expensive fancy house, those people don't have time for these things, or they're not exposed to music like that, or they don't really associate with people that haven't got as much money, because a lot of these crimes happen due to lack of money, lack of understanding. There's a lot of factors to it. I mean, if you look at it, these music videos and others, social media influencers, they show that if you drug deal, you make thousands of pounds, and they make it look so easy. All it is someone just going there, giving some drugs and getting some money. They make it look so easy, but they don't realize that through that you're endangering lives and others. In high-end places and places where there's no crime, you don't really get that, because a lot of people from, like, for example, Solihull and other areas where the people there are already high class, so they don't really need money like that. They don't look at money like that. So I think the difference is the population and the working class people really who really need the money, that they turn to these nasty things, and they won't be ashamed to just stab you or take anything away from you for a little bit of money.
So you're saying as well that do you think that giving the police more power to deal with these things, and that's not the best solution? You touched earlier upon education. So do you think these sort of behaviors, they should be treated more as a personality disorder rather than a crime that absolutely has to be dealt with?
I mean, when you say give powers to the police, if you look across social media, the police have been seen as so negative. And first hand coming from me, because I've been a special constable for about a year and a half, I see some people talk about the police, and we're not how people say we are. I mean, I've had conversations with people in the past saying, "Oh, the police are this, the police are that." I asked them the simplest question: What has the police done to you? Or they haven't. But have you seen what they done to that guy? Have you seen what they did to this? Listen, these things, these recordings on social media, they're like half of the story. They're not the full stories, and I think that just shows how gullible our community is.
Through social media, I mean, even the news, they can perceive anything. They can pretty much show a story to the world in a way that they want.
Yeah, so, and I think, like, when you do that with the police, I mean, they're only there to help you. And when something goes wrong, the first person you call are the police. So they're there to help you, but it's funny how gullible people are, especially when they're there to help you, and they take it for granted that they're just there trying to. When they're doing stop and search, I mean, I'd let a police do a stop and, I don't know about you guys, but I'd let a police do a stop and search on me if they feel like I've got a knife on me, because you know what, if they do it to me, I wouldn't mind, because I know I haven't got anything on me. But I'd rather them do 10 stop and searches on innocent people and find one knife than just not do it at all and find no knives. Because at the end of the day, it will help. And when you say about punishing the people that commit crimes, yes, to a certain extent, they should be punished, but also they should be taught and understand that the influences and impact they have on other kids. Because a lot of these high rappers and drill artists who promote these things, they don't understand that they're changing the lives of innocent young people who look up to them. And when you talk about looking up to someone, you should, as an individual, you should have a positive impact in your community, and just as a person, you should have a positive impact, and people should look up to you in a good way, not in a negative way. And they shouldn't really have to look at you and say, "Oh, this guy, he earns this much by drug dealing, and he does this, he does that, he's a part of this gang, oh, everyone's scared of him." These are not the right words that should be spreaded in these areas. It should be words like, "Oh, have you heard this guy? He's he's a doctor, or he's this, he's that. He's making music in a good way, and he's gone there and he's touched people, and you look at the music changes from the past to now. You had people like Bob Marley who talked about the slavery and who educated people through his music, but these new singers and rappers, they're not here to educate you in anything. They're just here to make their money and to rap and speak about whatever sells.
It's not all artists, of course. I mean, I know many artists, of course, who do use their experiences and show, or try to pretty much say, this is not the life, you don't want this, and use stories, their own stories and their own violent stories and this and that to prevent, or to give their viewers and give their listeners an insight to what that kind of life is. But there are those artists who do that and who do freely just say whatever they want and don't understand what they're doing, and I feel like they do need to be addressed, or those who are promoting that kind of side of life and saying that this is the way to make money, or not the way this is the way to make money, but normalizing that that's okay. Do you think that we could possibly kind of speak to those people, get them to speak to the young or speak to their listeners, and get them to know that this isn't right? I don't, even though I say this in my songs, I don't promote this kind of lifestyle.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the artists say to the people, don't follow this, don't do that. But then again, go and make a new song, because let's face it, these artists are only making the songs to make some sort of living, or to make a number one hit, or to become famous. So I think they do have the most power to have influences on the younger people and everyone across, because these guys have millions and millions of followers, and I feel like they don't want to. I feel like they don't want to show them the good ways, because it gives them. Because these days, not being a part of this, you're seen as a weak person, or you're not seen as a really strong person. If you're a drug dealer and if you do these things, you're seen as, wow, well, that's so nice. But those that don't do it are seen as like, oh, who's that guy? Look at him, he doesn't do that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it seems like the good way is starting to be perceived as boring and not fun.
Yeah, and the bad ways are like, yes.
Yeah.
And he's so good, he's all that.
That seems to get more views, that seems to get the money in, which is appalling.
Earlier you talked about entertainment and media, and over the course of the pandemic, the gaming industry has increased like twofold. Because of the amount of violence that's included in the games, and they're becoming more and more frequent, the violent games. Do you think they have an impact on these behaviors, or do you think they don't really have an impact at all?
I mean, honestly speaking, let me just ask you a quick question. How often do you play video games now? Do you play a lot? Or?
Myself, not all that much. Let's say in the weekends, maybe with a mate or two, probably a FIFA, something like that.
Oh, well, yeah.
Personally,
did you play?
Growing up, maybe from 13, 14, I used to play shooting games all the time. Like it was something that I had fun growing up. But in no means, in no way did that ever show to me that I'm violent. But that's because of my family, of my background, of people already teaching me that that's not okay. But I think it's more got to do with who you're hanging around with, who who your group are. You mentioned before that all these youths, they probably have bad influences, they probably have a bad group. You said that they get peer pressured into listening to things. So I feel like if you're not in the right group, if you're not in the right kind of, you could say, trying to get away from those guys who promote this type of music, this type of violence. You probably have kids these days getting peer pressured into robbing someone, just for the fun of it, just to be part of a friend,
just to look cool.
Just to look cool.
I think that answers your question on what impact video games has, because really and truly these days nobody has time for video games, and if they do, it's not really. I mean, the only negative game out there is probably like GTA, Grand Theft Auto, but that isn't had a much influence on others compared to, like, I think that's the least of the problems, because there's other things like music and social media and all those other things that have bigger impacts. So I just feel like video games is not really much of an impact in the community, but it is. It's probably for some people it is, but I don't think
it depends really,
Yeah,
because the thing is, I guess you have both sides to your argument, because you've got you got Dr. Craig Anderson from Iowa State University. He did write about the negative aspects of video games, but you have people like Dr. Chris Ferguson from Texas International University who say the complete opposite. So it seems like, for example, in Japan, lots of people play video games, but there's not a very high crime rate. So you're saying it depends more on the community.
I think with these people that you've just mentioned, I think these are from like different countries, so like America, and I think America and England is two different countries, so you can't really compare them, because in America it's so accessible to have a gun, and a lot of shootings happen in America that are like, you know, related to like Grand Theft Auto and whatnot. But in the UK, I don't think people are influenced through games like that. I mean, a lot of people grew up playing these sort of games, and I don't think any of those that I know personally, like I know like hundreds of people that play video games.
The whole friend group, we all play, but I don't think any of us are.
I think when it comes to research, it could be a bit.
Yeah, because you've got some on either side. You've got some who say it does impact negatively, some who say that it doesn't at all. Video games are fine. It's more the community. It's more where you grew up in. So for you, it's more important the environment rather than the games.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the environment's the main one, because obviously a lot of people go through poverty, and a lot of people. I mean, I've heard a lot of people in my area saying, "Oh, we started off with nothing, now with this, now with that," and you look at them, they've all changed their behaviour, they've all gone towards a negative path, and it just gives them some power.
Because you grew up in the area, I'm sure you made loads of friends. I'm sure you've heard about friends or someone who have gone down that path. Do you have anything to share? Do you have any people you know?
I've had a lot of people, of my friends that are down that path, and I've seen it firsthand, to be honest, and but it's a sensitive one for these ones, because you see them go down that path, and there's only much you could do, because with me, I've kept myself. I could have gone down that path as well. I mean, I've kept myself busy through sport, and I dedicate a lot of my time to youth work in Birmingham, which has helped me stay off the streets. But I've seen a lot of people on the streets that have turned into, and it's so easy to turn into and do these things, because it gives you easy money first of all, and although you're always living your life on the edge with the risk of getting caught, or the risk of stabbing someone, or the risk of meeting someone who's also dealing in your area, these risks are there. But I just feel like these people sometimes are desperate because they don't have. I mean, a lot of my friends, some of my friends, sorry, not a lot, some of my friends have like their fathers are busy, or they don't have any father figures in the house, or even their mom doesn't understand these things. So when they go ahead and do these things, it's just desperation. They need some sort of income. They need, and not only is it because they do it because they don't have no money in that, but look how the effects it has on everybody. I mean, so look how much effect social media and everything has, because if you don't wear the latest Nike trainers, you're seen as broke. As blatant as it is, you're seen as broke, and the girls look down on you, and they expect you to have some money, and you're expected to treat your girl like this much, and you're expected to be the richest man, although you're only 19. You're expected to have millions of pounds in your bank account, and vice versa. The girls feel like they need a lot of money as well, and you know what I mean. So that's why a lot of people turn into these things, because it's easy money for them. They need to keep up with these high standards that the people are setting, but these are not the right standards to be set. I mean, everybody's time ticks accordingly to them. You will make your money one day in a official way.
In the right way.
You want to make it the right way. You don't want to turn so desperate that you go into these things. You endanger your life. You hurt the people around you,
And I feel like even if they do go and make that money, how does that make? Sometimes that doesn't even make them any happier.
Yeah, definitely.
It seems like a constant theme throughout this discussion has been peer pressure, which is true. What your peers do, it does affect the youth a lot. And for example, they are a very big reason why some people go into gangs is because they said they felt like they were in a family. They felt like they were part of something. And what many have said got them out of that is feeling as part of a sports team. They felt like sports really helped them be part of something rather than be part of something bad.
Exactly.
Yeah. So just,
I mean, there's two topics on what you've just said that we can elaborate on. One of them is definitely that they feel like a part of a family when they join a gang. I mean, you see, from personal experiences, I've seen some people that are so quiet in school. Grew up in school with them, they're quiet, they're good kids, they're educated, and all of a sudden they've joined a gang and they've become into, like, you could say, a monster. And those are the people that change their lives because they want a little bit more attention. They don't want to be the quiet kid no more, and going into a gang gives them that ultimate power to get feared, and a lot of people do for fear and whatnot. Another thing you said about sports, which is probably the best thing. Sports has a lot of the people that are involved in this, I think they should be more towards sports, and sports has a positive impact on these things because when you're involved in sports, it gives you less time on the road, and it dedicates your time towards something which is greater
and something that's physically beneficial that will also will go hand in hand with your mental health.
Yeah, absolutely. And for those people that want to do sports and be something, those people that want their name to be out there, they should go towards sports or start something different. With sports in particular, I mean, I've played badminton for most of my life, and that has opened up pathways for me that I could never imagine. I mean, through badminton, I met some friends in Lyon. I've met some friends in Germany. I've also got some friends in Belgium, and it's also helped me travel across these countries, and it helps in terms of meeting new people, the social benefits, the physical benefits, the mental benefits, and also just to be a part of a team with players and members. Those kind of environments help the people who feel that they're not wanted in society. It helps them open up because through sports they meet different people and they feel like family to you, because a lot of my friends that I've met through badminton are like my brothers.
I think one big thing one of the main topics is antisocial behaviour, and one thing that I've kind of realised is, and it's as part of friends that I know as well, who have lived, let's say, without a father or without family or without so on. I think that can lead to sometimes having kind of some sort of antisocial traits, leading them to not make friends or leading them to not easily fit well in a community, and then they might end up being accepted into some sort of bad community. Because I know that sometimes these drug communities, these bad communities, I've heard that they use people who have no family, who have no they use them to get them to do sometimes their dirty work, or to get them to.
I mean, absolutely. I mean, you look at the, we say in terms of the road language, the big fishes that sit on top.
Yeah.
They recruit all the people that are desperate in need.
Exactly.
And you're never gonna see the big fishes coming to do the dirty work. It's always gonna be the young people that are involved, and the people that are desperate for the money. They're so easily targeted. They're used the most.
Yeah.
And it's a shame, because someone needs to educate these people into thinking, hey, listen, you're just doing this for no reason. You're putting your life at risk, and you're literally dedicating your whole time to the road for them to just be sitting at the top laughing at you, because you're just helping them, and it's not really got much of a benefit on you. So I think it is, to a certain extent, it doesn't matter that people out there are feeling safer with these people, but someone down the line should educate these people into like understanding these things. And I feel like if it's not your parents, that's why earlier during the talk we were talking about education in school. I feel like that's one of the biggest thing that could happen, a change, because if it's educated in school and they educate the young people into and change them from that, then going in, they are the future of tomorrow. So if we don't educate them now and if we don't teach them while they're young, then I think going to the future is going to be a difficult time.
You did talking about education. How should we educate them? Because, for example, a question that's just popped up in my mind is like, what is antisocial behaviour? How do we? What's the best way to define that? Because it's quite broad when you think, oh, anything that does not show compassion or does not show any regard for others. That's quite broad. It can mean different things to different people. For example, that's going to be an interesting way to talk about.
Yeah, this is the thing with antisocial behaviour. It could be anything. It could be just like not listening to your parents. That could be antisocial behaviour, or it could be like going out there making some noise and swearing in front of people. That's also kind of antisocial behaviour. With antisocial behaviour, it's a broad topic, but I think if in school we can educate the kids and teach them discipline and respect within school, then there's one thing with preventing and stopping. I don't think ever we'll ever be able to stop these antisocial behaviours, but we can prevent them from happening. So the difference is that stopping, we're never going to be able to stop something from happening. It's like, for example, racism and poverty. We've tried for many years to stop that from happening, but you can never stop it. But preventing is a big thing that we can do, and it's in our hands to prevent it from happening by spreading the knowledge and teaching them discipline and respect. So schools have the most power to prevent these from happening, and the way they could do it through many things. They could educate them in many ways as well. It could be something as small as, right guys, when you come in, you're going to address each other by their names. You're not going to give them no funny names. You're going to be work in groups. You all respect one another in the group, and then you bring in people from like different cultures and backgrounds. You unite them. You talk to them. You make everyone feel welcomed, and also you can do things like I said in the episode, during the episode early on about bringing in role models. You can also do that. I mean, how you for example, an athlete like me, I play badminton. If another badminton player at the top level was to come in and speak to me about badminton, I would be delighted. I mean, I would listen. Likewise, if someone who's been involved in gang violence, I mean, there's loads of people out there that have been involved in gang violence, who have turned their lives around. If you get one person in and give them a little talk, coming from them firsthand would be more effective than just a teacher telling you. So I think schools need to work with these sort of people and get working with those kind of people.
That was an amazing response. Thank you for giving us your insight on, and also giving us a good view on the kind of support that we should lean towards. And also to those watching, to those parents out there watching, you need to understand what's going on in the world today, what you could do to also prevent your child, or to prevent anyone in the community leading toward going down that path. I know that Kaysan here had some references to some supports towards some antisocial.
We've talked a lot about preventing, but sometimes you have it in your area, you need to deal with it. What you can do is if you're consistently reporting to your police force that you're experiencing antisocial behaviour and you see not much is being done, what you can do is ask for a antisocial behaviour case review. So what this is you can ask your agencies such as your police force, your local authority, to have a meeting about it, and then they will have to promote it and deal with it more urgently. And it's not very well known. There's only been 300 that have been asked for in 2021. So compared to the 1,800 something thousand incidents that have been reported to the police, only 300 people at the end have actually gone through this process. So for the viewers out there, have a look at what the Antisocial Behaviour case review is. It's also called a community trigger.
Thank you, Kaysan, for for helping them understand, letting them know the kind of support that's out there for them. And also, thank you.
Just before we wrap up, I'd just like to say to all the viewers watching, if you feel like you're one of the people in the topics we've talked about today, there's always time to change, and I hope what we've said could help you change. And also, if you're people that are around these kind of people, then please do your best and start with yourself to change and see the world in a more positive way. And going forward, hopefully we can build a better relationship with one another and make our community the best we can. And the only way to do that is by starting with ourselves and changing.
Very well said. Well, anyway, thank you very much for joining us in this episode. A view on young people's perspective on knife crime, violence, antisocial behaviour. We hope that the things that were said could help you guys, help communities, help you guys speak up and try and prevent all these things from happening. And we hope to see that in the future that these knife crimes, these crime rates start to decrease, hopefully. Thank you very much. We'll see you in the next episode.